So thank you everybody for joining today. We've got a really awesome webinar in store for you guys today and some really awesome guest speakers. Today we're here to talk about SCOM and SCOM tuning specifically, but luckily not just for me, we've got some genuine experts on the call today with me to impart some of their awesome wisdom. So let me go ahead and introduce everybody who's on the call. So we have Christian Heitkamp, who is the Director of Products at NICE IT Management Solutions. Hey Christian, how are you?
Hi there, all good. Thanks for inviting me over, Bruce.
Great, glad you could join. We also have Stoyan Chalakov, who is a Senior IT Consultant at POHN IT Consulting, also a multi-time MVP in Cloud and Data Center. Hey Stoyan.
Hi guys, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. We have got Gavin Speed of Apajove, who is a SCOM and SCCM technical consultant. Great to have you with us. Hey Gavin.
Hey Bruce, thanks for the invite. Glad to be part of this.
Glad you could be here. And we also have Shawn Williams, who is a technical evangelist at SquaredUp, ex of Purdue University. Hey Shawn.
Hi. Thanks for inviting me too.
Glad you could be here. Awesome. I see a question in the chat window. This whole thing will be recorded and we'll make it available as soon as it's done. And the final person is me, Bruce Cullen. I'm the Director of Products here at Cookdown. You'll be pleased to hear you won't be hearing too much from me over this webinar, more from the speakers. So without further ado, let's crack onwards towards SCOM tuning. But before we kind of dive in here, just to kind of set the stage a bit, as to what the problem is. Why are we talking about SCOM tuning? Why is this such a critical topic? I guess we need to talk a bit about traditional tuning and SCOM's perception. So unfortunately for us, SCOM is seen by many as a spam engine, which is a real shame because the management packs you can import into SCOM to monitor things offer really detailed monitoring, and that should be a really good thing. What's not to like about being able to monitor everything you can think of? The reality is most customers don't need all of that monitoring all of the time. They need a subset and different levels of monitoring for different types of workflow. We hear this time and time again. I just want to see CPU, memory and disk. It's the most frustrating thing as the SCOM guy to hear in the world when you know you've spent all this time on monitoring everything under the sun with SCOM, but we hear it time and time again. So what's the solution? Well, clearly it's to tune SCOM. But if anyone's tried to do that before the sort of traditional way, they know it's not quite as straightforward as kind of it sounds initially, which is the sort of traditional tuning approach, which looks a bit like this. So you have on one side of the fence the SCOM administrator, and on the other side you have a domain expert. So this might be a DBA or an Oracle expert, and it usually looks a bit like this, a kind of tug of war between the SCOM administrator and the domain expert, where the SCOM admin will go, cool, so domain expert, how do you want me to tune your servers or your workload, whatever it might be? And the domain expert coming back with kind of, great, what kind of options are available to me? I need a bit more to kind of go on. And this back and forward will go on for a while. It might result in some whiteboard sessions, maybe some Excel spreadsheets, and at the end, the SCOM admin will end up with a list of things to tune. And then they have to go and tune them in SCOM itself. So anyone that's done this the kind of traditional way knows it can be a painful process. It's sort of 10 clicks to tune a single workflow, and you might have thousands of workflows in a management pack, let alone a management group. So it can take a long time, and obviously it can be very error prone as well, which results in retuning and potentially losing the attention of your domain experts and ultimately the attention on your SCOM alerts, which is what you want to avoid. So in order to set the stage for the tuning tips themselves, it's worth introducing EasyTune at this stage. So EasyTune is a free solution from us here at Cookdown that solves this problem. And the tuning tips that our experts today are going to impart are all captured in tuning packs. So you can simply consume their best practice tips and apply them to your own SCOM management group. So what is EasyTune? It solves this problem of traditional tuning. It allows you to tune an entire management pack in a single click. and contains community curated best practice from the community store. So this is a really key point. Rather than having to start that conversation with your domain expert afresh, you can start with some sensible values to kind of get you going with from that community store, and that's where our experts today come into the picture. The tuning that's available contains intuitive, easy selectable levels of monitoring, so you can have a different level for, say, your production servers from your test servers. And the tuning is stored in what is called tuning packs. The really key point here is there's no kind of wizardry or like special language here. The tuning packs are CSV files, so the good old-fashioned spreadsheets that you can really easily share with your domain experts to get them to have a look at what's in there and tune as appropriate. So how does it work? How is it used? So it all starts with EasyTune itself, which is a management pack that you import into SCOM. And that consumes tuning packs stored in CSV format. These are curated by the SCOM administrator and the domain expert, working to refine the tuning and apply that tuning through EasyTune. Of course, tuning packs also come from our community store, which is another commonly known piece of technology. It's a GitHub repository. So if someone out there feels they have some tuning that makes sense, or want to suggest modifications to existing tuning packs, they can simply go and contribute it. And that's where our community of experts comes in, working on the best practice, refining those tuning packs that are out there already. And that's also where our experts come in today, as they've all contributed tuning packs to our community store to help this process. And of course, all important, the end result is overrides stored in sensibly named management packs in SCOM itself, that it's possible to kind of keep an eye on what's going on with. So I'm not going to demo EasyTune itself today. If this is the first time you're hearing of it, go to go.cookdown.com/EZY, and there's a demo video there along with the download form for it. As I mentioned earlier, it's a free product. There's no sort of sales pitch or what have you there. It's a free thing, just go get it. We think every SCOM management group should have EasyTune because it's such a fundamental problem. So now we've set the stage, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first speaker. So Christian, thank you for joining today. So as a bit of background before we dive into tuning packs, who are you and what do you do? What's your role at NICE?
Yeah. Hello, everybody, and thanks for listening in today. So my name is Christian Heitkamp. I'm, working since over 10 years with SCOM authoring, management pack development, and started off SCOM 2007 R2 and later, and really now have a director position at NICE, and we have a large portfolio of management packs, which I work on the architect board with our developers here, and we are a fun crew really focused on just pure management pack development. So
awesome. So you've seen SCOM's life cycle and development, warts and all, from the sound of things then.
Yeah, indeed. So we really start developing management packs for non-Microsoft workloads, like VMware, or also Oracle. In that case, I'm talking about that in a moment. So, and we really do kind of professionalized management pack development, not only for those applications, but also for some customer requirements, if there are.
Perfect. Great background. So I'll advance. So you mentioned Oracle then, which leads on to your slides. So I'll tell you when to click.
Hey, yes, we have an announcement.
Ooh,
so
exciting.
Let's start with that. Yes, you can click. Yeah, we have a new release. So, and I just want to take this opportunity here of this webinar to announce our new release as well. So it's a minor release. So we didn't have a dedicated webinar for that. It has a couple of new features I just want to quickly address and take a bit of the time out of the EasyTune webinar here to run over this, because I've seen some people that are using our Oracle management pack also on this webinar. So obviously most requested and most wanted is Oracle 19c support. So that's kind of the new version that was released last year, but really rolls out to production right now. So, and on going in the circle clockwise, so we have the HTML5 widgets. So for those who are using the SCOM web console, so there's a possibility to add specific widgets to that, and we've done that, and that if you look at them, they're quite fancy actually. They're not just a standard library, so we actually created some new code for that to make that really looking nice and being fast and responsive on that console front end. So yeah,
that's a really important point. I was going to ask what makes your Oracle Management Pack special, but you've started to answer that question already. You know, there's some really cool stuff in there.
Well, you just got me going, right? You know, so the really key thing is about the architecture, and I haven't. Those are just the new features, right? So the architecture and the key important point what I want to mention is here that we are agent based, and we are really building upon the agent. Either if you run Oracle on Windows or on Linux, on AIX, or on exotic platforms like HPOX, or even remote on Exadata. So that's all being supported, and we're building basically upon that. And we actually, when you get later to the tuning pack, that comes from a customer that runs over 1,000 Oracle instances and is monitoring that, and to allow that we really make use of the agent-based monitoring approach that SCOM offers. So that's one of the really key features of our architecture concept.
Makes a lot of sense. Using the true power of SCOM there makes sense. And so, how's it priced? What's the pricing model for this product?
Well, yeah. So the pricing model is there that typically different. So you can either go like a perpetual license model or your subscription-based model. So that's from the term perspective. So and then it's priced typically per Oracle instance. So and then obviously if you get in larger environments, we have then a volume discount and so on. So that is basically we typically adapt with the type of environment, because always be our objective here when creating and selling management packs, our management packs should be affordable. They should be affordable to every type of environment, and we don't want to make this really high 6-digit number and price for a management pack to deploy, because it's at the end it's a management pack for the SCOM group, right? And we don't want to have it sitting on our shelves, so to say. And that's why we reach really widespread distribution in the market. We're on dozens of countries where this is used, and I think way over a couple of thousand licenses right now out there. So
awesome, good to hear. So when should somebody use your management pack, and where do we find out more about it and about you guys in general?
Well, yeah. So if you typically it's best you can go to just use your favorite search engine and put Oracle MP in there, and the nice Oracle management pack. That's the keyword, right? So and then you typically will pop up on the first search engine, or you can just go to nice.de because we are a German headquartered company, but we have offices also in the United States and different places. So we have a sister company in California that works on the North American market. So so we kind of really globally addressing this market.
Awesome, great to hear, and it's a really cool solution from what I've seen of it so far. And obviously working with you over the process of creating the tuning packs, we've had a chance to fiddle with the MPs, and they are pretty cool. So I guess moving on from the management pack itself to the tuning packs. So what's in your tuning pack, and what levels are available here?
So yeah, you probably know the first one, so the standard one. So which is the summary is one I would quickly want to highlight. The summary is actually the best practice we collected from dozens of customers, and these are also really large customers that use this on many hundreds or even over 1,000 Oracle databases, where we can actually then we typically ask the customers to retrieve their custom override management packs, and then we bake them into a tuning pack, or we did this in this case here. So they can be pretty assured that your domain expert or the expectation of your domain experts are quite well matched, in this case the Oracle DBA. So that was the focus on the summary one.
Awesome. That's really good to know. I see also mention here of OpsDB and DWH data warehouse, presumably. Is there a bit more sort of information there?
Yeah, I guess Bruce, you always know that all the data, all the rules write to the data warehouse and to the OpsDB, but there's so much information, especially in the data warehouse, you typically don't use because you don't have the report even for it. But the data goes in there. So we thought at one point, why actually everybody needs to write the data in there if nobody's going to use it? So all the rules that are delivered, also the performance collection rules that are delivered, have an override possibility to disable the write action that writes into the data warehouse. So, or in the ops-DB. So you can, with these tuning packs, say, well, actually, I don't know, need the data in the data warehouse and have it 400 days or so on in there sitting, so they can just import that, for example, the default plus ops-DB only tuning pack that would just write to the ops-DB and not bring any data into the data warehouse if you don't need that.
Makes sense. Good use case. And yeah, as you say, it doesn't make sense to store data if you don't need it. So yeah, save yourself some storage space and some money and turn that stuff off. Awesome. In terms of the tuning pack itself, so it's live right now on the community store. It was launched yesterday, so anyone with the nice Oracle management pack, go and get it. It's out there right now. Thank you very much, Christian. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we move on?
No, I think I'm done with this here. So thanks for listening in, and enjoy the new version of the Oracle Management Pack. And feel free to check out our other management pack, especially Office 365, like Teams monitoring. If you're using Teams and you're not monitoring, have a look at our management pack.
Interesting. I'll be interested to hear the use cases for those another time. Thank you very much. So moving on to Gavin. So Gavin, how are you doing?
Hi, Bruce. Good, thank you.
I guess you can already guess the questions. They'll be very similar. So who are you and what's your kind of role at Apajove? What do you do?
So I've been with Apajove now for 5 years as a System Center technical consultant. My primary focus is operations manager, which I've been working with since 2010, 2011, around that sort of time. And since then, been delivering operations manager project engagements up and down the country, varying from new design deployments, upgrades, supporting customers with their migrations, custom authoring, and a whole variety of things that anything involving operations manager. I'm also working with our customer base with their SCCM projects, Windows 10 rollouts, and even a bit of service manager and orchestrator in there as well.
Cool. Good to see service manager and orchestrator Squatch coming up. Yeah, still deployed. New deployments, or is this more sort of like maintenance of existing deployments, just out of interest?
Maintenance and existing, keeping the heart beating just.
Makes sense. Cool. Well, awesome. It's great to have you here, and thank you for that background. So I guess without kind of further ado, I'll click through. Where's my cursor gone? Into your slides on the tuning packs that you've written for us. So what are they? What do they tune? Let's start there.
So the tuning packs we're focusing on are a couple of the internal SCOM management packs, which might fall under the radar with users who are managing SCOM management groups. So the first area that we're focusing on is the discoveries and collection rules, which populate agent and alert data into the health summary dashboard, as you can see there. We found that these offer little to no value and actually have a performance hit on the SCOM console, which isn't the quickest experience anyway. So the tuning pack is adjusting the collection intervals that populate these widgets as they run far too frequently. So that's the first area. The visibility of agent information and version information can be obtained by Kevin Holman's distributed management pack, which is SCOM Management MP, which provides a much greater level of detail than what's on offer here.
Awesome. I think this is a really good use of EasyTune because, lots of focus goes into tuning for the workloads that SCOM is monitoring, but not much focus goes into SCOM itself. And whoever's actually dealing with SCOM in a kind of day-to-day capacity, that, for those folk, this is going to be really, really useful. And like you say, tips that are in your tuning pack are, from Kevin Holman and, are seen as sensible across the field. So they're really awesome. Next slide.
Yes, please. Okay, thanks. The second area we're going to look at is the System Center Core Monitoring Management Pack. So there is a bunch of rules that are part of this management pack, which will trigger various types of script failure alerts. A couple of examples there, but there is actually a whole host of them. People will probably be familiar with some of those, and definitely would have seen some of those in some shape or form in their SCOM environment. The tuning pack applies overrides that are going to reduce the severity of these to informational type alerts, as in most cases the next interval a script is due to run. It usually completes okay, but keeping the alert severity informational while still retaining visibility of what's happening.
A really good use case. Our test lab for our own internal product testing runs in Azure, and is basically they're under spec boxes. So we see drop PowerShell scripts and WMI query failures all the time. So these tips are super useful for us.
Indeed, yeah. And as the default sort of warning, we find that having these at warning severity is polluting people's alert stats unnecessarily, and reducing these to informational is much more appropriate.
Indeed. Helps people focus on what's actually important. Perfect.
And the second element of the core management pack is a really important area around agent health. So the tuning pack is going to apply overrides to the health service class to increase the memory handle count and private byte thresholds parameters, because we've determined that the defaults aren't really appropriate. The reason we're applying those overrides is to prevent the best we can the agent health process from being killed and restarted. The default thresholds would have been probably appropriate 10 plus years ago, when systems consumed far less resources than today's operating systems.
Makes sense. At the end of the day, things have changed since 10 years ago when these overrides, the defaults were put in place. So yeah, it makes absolute sense to me. Next slide.
Yes, please. So as with agent health restarts, the overall effect is going to cause the monitoring agent to load up start scripts on loop and possibly consume more resources than it actually needs. The screenshot there is from a customer environment where over a 5-day period, with less than 500 agents in the environment, so you can see that even a small environment can see this type of behavior. 25,000, nearly approaching 26,000 counts of the private byte threshold being triggered.
And yeah, if each of those is going to potentially generate alerts and disruption, then yeah, definitely a good idea to tune it. Next slide.
Yes, please. And ultimately, while the agent health process is being killed and restarted and so on, we're losing periods of monitoring. And this is where, if agents aren't healthy and are reporting in this kind of state, then we haven't got monitoring. And in addition to the health service restarts, we're also triggering health state changes, which are in turn are being written back to the operations manager database. So again, we're sending unnecessary state change data to our nice new or our operations manager database in whatever state it's in.
Yeah, makes sense. And what's the point in storing that data if it's not useful and doesn't need to be generated in the first place? Another good example of how you can save yourself a bit of storage and therefore a bit of money by tuning SCOM itself better. Makes sense to me.
Indeed, and it doesn't. It goes without saying that if we're presenting dashboards as well, your dashboards aren't going to look any good either with non-monitored and grey status all over them.
Indeed, all the hard work you've done in setting up SCOM itself to do the monitoring could be devalued and lost by this small thing.
So that's really what our tuning pack is about.
Cool. Thank you.
Cool. Cheers. So I just want to take this opportunity, if anyone wants to find out more about Apajove and what we do, head over to apajove.com. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to talk about our System Center dashboard product, Callisto, which focuses on the System Center stack, predominantly SCCM, but there's some operations manager elements in there as well. So yeah, head over to the URL there if you're lucky enough to be supporting an SCCM environment as well as a SCOM environment.
Makes sense. It's very common. They're part of the same suite, so yeah, very likely that those tools will be common in your organisation, and they're really cool dashboards. I was checking them out myself at Experts Live EU back in whenever it was, October last year, and it's really quite cool. Thank you very much, Gavin. Any last thoughts before I move on?
No, that's it from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So next up we have Stoyan. Hey Stoyan, how you doing?
Hi guys, I'm fine, thank you. Thank you, Bruce.
Great. So you're a senior IT consultant at POHN IT Consulting, and of course, multi-time MVP. That's all the background I think it's probably worth me giving. So I guess from yourself, in your own words, how would you introduce yourself? What's your background and what do you do?
So the reason I'm here today is because in my past I did a lot of Active Directory. I was working for a couple of years for the Microsoft support. So there I was a SME for Active Directory. Active Directory is still my passion. I'm doing a lot of automation, PowerShell automation in Active Directory. But of course my focus is actually System Center and mainly SCOM. I'm working for the POHN IT Consulting. We are a consulting company based in Switzerland. And being an MVP, I do a lot of community work, like supporting others in the Microsoft forums, writing lots of blog articles, doing lots of stuff. An interesting project of mine and of ours, actually, together with a fellow MVP, is the so-called MVP taxi, where we drive around familiar names, MVPs, and ask them questions just to present them in another light, so to say, to the community.
Awesome. I've seen a few of your MVP taxi episodes. I like the fact you actually go into a taxi and drive around while you're discussing topics that kind of matter to the community.
It's really fun. Yeah,
a cool fun take on technical help for the community. It's great to have you here today. So I guess moving on to the tuning packs themselves. So it's no surprise, I guess, that they're for Active Directory. And that they're from yourselves, and you've got a great history in Active Directory and SCOM. So without further ado, what's in your tuning packs?
So the tuning pack covers actually the Active Directory, the directory services, in particular the 2016 version of it. What's important to say is that those who are working with Active Directory know that Active Directory hasn't changed a lot in a couple of years, in the last years. So what's applicable for 2016 remains actually the same also or almost the same for 2019, and it's also the same for the previous versions of Active Directory.
Makes sense. It's true of some of the other tools, like SCOM itself, to some extent, that the core of the thing hasn't changed much over the years.
Absolutely. So I have defined 4 different levels within the tuning pack. My motivation was the following: Active Directory on its own is a really basic. Very important service or feature or let's say collection of services. So when I reviewed the tuning pack, I defined the first level to be a bit larger, so to say, because of the nature of Active Directory. You would like to monitor or to have basic monitoring for the most important features or aspects of Active Directory, because Active Directory in itself is a basic and important or critical, let's say, platform or feature. So we have the essential, the balanced, the enhanced, and the master level. The essential level covers the most of the stuff. I'll present it now, and the other levels are actually built up on the previous level. So the balanced is built up on the essential level, and the enhanced is built up on the balanced level. In addition to this, there is Active Directory member monitoring perspective. What does this mean? So when you monitor Active Directory, you actually get the information from your domain controllers, from your SCOM agent on the domain controllers, but you can also have the possibility to get the information from domain members. So how your domain members view your Active Directory infrastructure, what are they experiencing, what availability information do they have for your domain controllers and for the rest of the core services like the sysfo, like the group policies, etc., etc.
Makes sense. A really important use case with Active Directory. Next slide.
So, yes, please. I'll try to present them in a more quicker way. So the essential level is really the necessary minimum, so to say. Like I already stated, it covers a bigger part of the default monitors, rules, workflows enabled. All important discoveries are enabled. The exception is, I think, the domain member monitoring perspective. And of course, the minimum includes critical consistency, availability, and also health monitors, which you need at any costs in order to have a good overview of your Active Directory. And like I said, it covers really all the basic functionalities in Active Directory.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
The balance level is based on the essential level, so it has all the enabled workflows which are defined within the essential levels, and adds some important performance and availability monitors, also some alert generating and also performance collection rules. This level is actually closest to the default level, which has been defined by the management pack itself. So when you import the management pack, by default, this is the level which is almost the same. Here, regarding the monitoring from a domain member perspective, this covers only basic availability monitoring.
Makes sense. Okay. Where would you use the balance level over, say, the essentials level?
A good question, Bruce. Thank you. The essential level is actually can be used in smaller environment where the topology is not that big, where you don't have too many sites, where you need only the basic information from your Active Directory. And the balance level is actually for mid-size environments where you just want to get an overview, to have an overview, but still don't be let's say avoid flooding your SCOM environment with too much data.
Makes sense. Yeah, nothing worse than doing that. Perfect.
Regarding the enhanced level, what's important here to say is it adds on top of the balanced level, and it adds some performance collection rules. They collect different metrics. My thought here was the following: it can be used by some subject matter experts when there is a need to get more detailed overview of the performance, or when you need more data in order to troubleshoot a specific issue. So regarding this, I would really enable this enhanced level, let's say, only for a limited amount of time, because otherwise you're just collecting information which you don't use in a normal case. So in order to stay performant and to stay, let's say, with the basics, this should be used just temporary.
Makes sense. Yeah, as you said earlier, you don't want to kind of flood SCOM with alerts for things that are not important in a kind of day-to-day context. But as you say,
correct.
Useful for kind of troubleshooting. Perfect.
And the last level is actually the master level. The master level should be enabled always with POHN, because it collects almost everything. It's based on the enhanced level, and the differences are the difference to the enhanced level is the master level has enabled some performance collection rules which collect metrics regarding your database, the NTDS did. And those metrics are typically not used or not looked at, so you don't need them normally. You need them only in special scenarios where you need to troubleshoot an issue. And of course, in this level, the monitoring from a domain member perspective includes all the availability and performance monitoring workflows. What needs to be said here is that you need also to be cautious when you enable or when you add your domain members to the group, which is actually doing the monitoring from a domain member perspective, because adding too much domain members to this group leads to the fact that you gather a lot of data, which then builds up in your operations database and in your data warehouse. And this is not a good, let's say, recommendation or not a good practice.
Yeah, makes sense. But again, I imagine really useful for troubleshooting specific issues. But yeah, I agree with your caution there. Perfect. And that's your last slide. So thank you very much for coming onto the call today. And are there any other thoughts or anything else that you'd like to share?
Thank you for having me, guys. You can follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn, or I write a lot of blogs. You can also take a look at the MVP Taxi site. It will be very interesting, I promise. Thank you.
We're checking out MVP Taxi and following you on Twitter to get all the latest. Thank you very much for coming on the call. So we'll move on to Shawn. Shawn, hey.
Hi, Bruce. How are you doing?
I'm all right, not too bad. Yeah, enjoying the sun in the UK. We don't get much of it. So I've given you a bit of an introduction already, but I guess it'd be really good to get, in your own words, your background, who you are and what you do.
Sure. It actually makes kind of sense to even talk about that in the context of the tuning pack. Yeah, because I worked at Purdue and I worked with the SQL team there to tune their packs. We just used EasyTune to kind of figure out what made sense for them. And then, of course, when I joined SquaredUp, it made sense to kind of bring that out just to share. But basically, I'm a systems engineer, and I work with customers at SquaredUp to pretty much get SCOM working and get SquaredUp working and get them working better together. And these tuning packs are how I do that.
Sounds good. It's also kind of worth pointing out that it's through our discussions on these exact tuning packs that this webinar kind of came to be, because we really needed a tuning pack for SQL, and we were talking about it. And when you were still at Purdue and you were talking about onboarding your SQL team into SCOM for the very first time, and how EasyTune was really helping with that. So right. It's through our discussions this webinar came to be. Yeah. So I'll skip on. To focus on the tuning pack specifically. So what's in your tuning pack?
So when we looked at EasyTune, one of the things you mentioned in your introduction was EasyTune lets you get a list of all the things that it monitors. That was pretty key for us to get the SQL team on board, because then we could give them a list and say, here's everything it does, and then they could quickly walk down that list, turn on, turn off, or in this case, we created different levels. So we had 4 operational levels. So we had test, QA, prod, something like that. We'll get to each of them. But basically, we were able to take all of the rules, get that list, and then adjust from there. So our first level was test. And then we turned pretty much everything off, turned the collections for performance, left them at the default, which was 15 minutes, just because we wanted to know that it was alive. But that was pretty much it. We didn't want to know much more than that.
Makes sense. Before we dig into the other levels, how did you find the kind of like general process of working with a domain expert on a tuning pack?
Well, prior to EasyTune, I know this sounds kind of sales pitchy, but prior to EasyTune, it was pretty hard because we had to monitor a server, wait for the alert to fire, or go to the console and show them the list, and the domain expert's eyes would pretty much glaze over at that point. Just having the CSV and here you go, or even the Microsoft document, it listed everything, but they didn't like the way it was written. They just wanted a list, and this was kind of neat just to work with them on that list.
That's good to hear. That's great to hear. That's how EasyTune kind of came to be in the first place, to be honest. Real problem, exactly what you just described. Great. Okay, I'll stop going off on a tangent now.
Actually, no. I want to talk about that for just 1 second. Well, even with regards to the levels, because in working with the SQL team at Purdue, or working with SQL admins now that I'm at SquaredUp, each shop monitors different aspects of SQL. And so there were, like, we didn't do at Purdue clustering very often. We had 1 or 2 of those. So we were able to just like literally turn off all those things to just save on the collection, save on the performance really quickly. That was really nice. That was handy.
Makes sense. No, that's good to hear.
So going to the levels. So we had test was the first one. QA was the second one. So our QA was similar to test. It turned on a few more monitors just so that we knew that it was working for the people that were doing quality assurance work. And we raised up the performance counters to 10 minutes because we cared, but we didn't care as much. So that was the QA level. If you go to the next slide, this was our production level. This is where once a system was in production in our infrastructure operations center, or what we called our IOC, was watching the server, they wanted something closer to real time. So we, as close as we were willing to get, was 5 minutes. And everything got dialed up to 5, and there were a few more monitors turned on, so we knew that when things were working. And yeah, pretty much that was it.
Makes sense. Just out of interest, why not go more frequent than 5 minutes?
Just for the performance hits to the operations manager, basically. You really didn't need too much, and it's a good lead-in, because our last level, which was our performant level, we would only turn on when we were troubleshooting a production issue. So we knew there was something going on. We wanted like almost real time. So we set everything to what we called our absurd level, or what was the old Mel Brooks movie, Spaceballs. So we would turn everything to 2 minutes, and it would run, and it would collect everything, and the data warehouse would get hammered. The operations manager, ops manager's database would get hammered. But we had all the data that we needed to troubleshoot these issues. But the interesting part was, I think, the next slide. When we went from our test level to our performant level, you could see, this is a SquaredUp dashboard for SQL. It literally is 2 columns, performance metrics, but I let these run for 12 hours. So 6 hours with regular, 6 hours with performance. You can see real quick, what's really going on. Great for a view. Great for testing. But if you leave it on too long, if you go to the next slide, we just call this muddy data because you have too much of it. So great for testing, don't do it long term.
Yeah, no, it makes absolute sense. But like you say, it's got its use case. There's the themes that have come out of these tuning packs. So the notion of having a level for troubleshooting has come out a few times. So being able to quickly and easily go, hey, I want to stick this specific object or this group of servers or whatever it might be into some kind of tuning level that lets me troubleshoot what's going on them and then take them out quickly, easy as well, has come out, which is really good to hear. And also why you wouldn't want to leave that tuning in place all the time.
Exactly. And as Gavin mentioned, this is great to test because the tuning packs let you turn it on, do what you need to do, turn it off. And you don't have to click through all like 300 different alerts or monitors or performance rules or whatever.
Makes sense.
So yeah, and then I should have probably put this one first, but I'm part of the Tech Evangelist group at SquaredUp with Samir and Adam. So we are starting to all tweet and blog from that site. Hopefully soon I'll have my own place to blog.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
And so I guess if anyone's got any questions or wants to see more of your work, then go to squareup.com or reach out to you at those places.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for coming on the webinar today. Really appreciate your input and your tuning pack. So that's all we have time for today. Apologies for going a little bit over there. Hope you appreciated why we did that. But we have another webinar planned very, very soon. We have a new version, Cookdown have a new version of our SCOM connector for ServiceNow. We're just about to launch version 1.5. If you don't know what the SCOM connector for ServiceNow is, it's all about these three things. So taking SCOM alerts, pushing them up into ServiceNow to automate the incident creation process, populating ServiceNow's CMDB with SCOM object data, and joining the dots in between individual configuration items in ServiceNow with service mapping. So this could be business or application services. The webinar itself is on the 1st of April, so Wednesday next week at 3 p.m. GMT, UK time. If you go to cookdown.com, there's a webinar link in the top right corner. Click there, and all of our webinars, past and future, are available for registration. We have another exciting thing we're going to be doing on that webinar. We're going to be sharing plans for a free version of AlertSync. In response to COVID-19, the world has gone a little bit crazy right now, and you know, as with a number of businesses doing kind of things to help the world deal with this, with everybody remote working, we're no different, and AlertSync can really help with that problem. So join the webinar for full details of what's involved. Again, that's on the 1st of April at 3 p.m. And that's all we have time for today. Just in response to your question, it is possible to send SCOM alerts to event management as events rather than raising them as incidents directly if you have event management from ServiceNow. So all that's left to do is say thank you very much to our awesome guest speakers, to Christian, to Stoyan, to Gavin, and to Shawn. Thank you very much for your time today, and really appreciate having you on the call.
No problem.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you also, Bruce. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's all we have time for today. Again, apologies for going over. If you want to see more about what Cookdown is and does, then you can go to cookdown.com, email us hello@cookdown.com, and @team_cookdown on good old Twitter. So thank you very much, and hopefully see you on the 1st of April on our release webinar. Thank you very much, everyone.